Good day, everyone. My name is Tom T. Moore, and I'm the author of 8 books. Um, and I was voted best self-help author for 3 years in a row by the readers of the Health magazine for my Gentle Way books. And I've done other books, and the one we're going to start taking up today is going to be the Atlantis and Lemuria book, like this. And and this is going to be a short presentation that I've done in a workshop that I do to groups where I take both Atlantis and Lemuria, but you're going to get to see it on screen. So with that, let's begin. Atlantis and Lemuria. These continents actually existed. It's just that because there were so many thousand years ago when they destroyed themselves, that there is very little still written about them. And it's mostly uh, mouth to mouth to mouth history. So now I mentioned the general way. I request the most benevolent outcome. The results of this workshop, we'll call it podcast, to be even better for me than I can hope for or expect. Thank you. You say that out loud. And the tools for your toolbox are astrology, numerology, dreams, and I am ageless. If you say I am ageless out loud almost every day, you will absolutely forget your age. And you're also telling yourselves that they are to slow down their aging. Requesting most benevolent outcomes. You say, I request a most benevolent outcome for ... Now, I read a channeled article in the Sedona Journal of Emergence one time that was channeled by Robert Shapiro, and he was channeling a being by the name of Zosh, and Zosh, I was to learn later, is like an understudy for our Creator, and he's learning what it, uh, what he can learn before he creates his own universe. So Zosh said, you can request benevolent outcomes in your life. And I said, well, that's interesting. And so I started experimenting with it. It worked perfectly. And I started writing articles and became a full-time columnist for the Sedona Journal over 200 uh, columns ago. I've already taken up in previous episodes the creator of creators, who's created trillions of creators, all completely with a completely different interest than all the others. And and our and I've covered this book in a previous episode where our creator uh, created our universe with the small bang theory, as I call it, because he only created several hundred galaxies to start off with, every single one of them different from all the others. And and so it is with all the trillions of other galaxies that he's created. There are 4 negative energies and 10 positive energies. Our uh, universe was, along with all the trillions of others, were created in the 10 positive energies. The 4 negative energies, no one wanted to fool with because they were very restrictive and compressed. But our creator decided to have what was called the Earth experiment, where he decided to create a whole solar system in these 4 negative energies, and our souls volunteered for it. So there's a space-time continuum, and of course, in the future, the James Webb uh, telescope will tell everyone, the people that are running it, that there really are the universe is actually older than we think it is, not 11.5, but 20 billion years. In actuality, it's 25 billion years, but we all, uh, but the scientists do not have the equipment yet to be able to see to the oldest part of the universe. Now, there, uh, there was a real Star Wars that actually happened, which is why many of the science fiction space odysseys and all took up this because all the souls that are having lives on Earth had previous lives on other planets, like I had 100,000, I was told, and uh, and so there was this Star Wars where the reptilian Dracos came to our galaxy wanting to take over planets, which they started doing. And that started a Star Wars that lasted for 27,000 uh, universal years, 270,000 Earth years. So that's why all of these Star Wars stories and everything uh, depict a very, very long period of time that this war lasted. And I was a religious leader on a water planet in the Sirius B star system, and I suggested that uh, we offer the reptilians uh, to have 10% of the souls that would take part in the Earth experiment would be reptilian souls, not bodies. Okay, that's very important to remember. Reptilian souls. But at that time, of course, everyone despised and hated the reptilians because they had killed billions of people by that time. And they said, absolutely no. So 450 years go by, universal years. And of course, this suggestion was given to me by Creator. And so finally they said, okay, we'll just offer it. We don't think it'll work, but it did. The reptilians accepted it, so 10% of the souls having lives on Earth are reptilian, and they will go back to their planets with higher vibrational levels, and they will in turn raise the vibrational levels of their people, and this will create a much more peaceful universe overall. And and I was told that, well, I think outside of the box, so they wanted to make me a Federation advisor, and I've done that for many hundreds of years. And we have soul, uh, we have golden light beings that take care of us. We know them as guardian angels, and people have tried to prove telepathy, but like the Duke University here using the Zender cards, but they did not work very well because the people they just took off the street. They didn't they didn't have time to sort of meld their minds. And so all of these beings telepathically communicate with me, and all these thought packets, as they're called, I'm told, come through your pineal gland and are processed by your brain. Now, the ETs, the emissaries of the Creator, went to all these ET planets in this part of the galaxy and said that we want you to create beings that can withstand the struggles working with these four negative energies, which are very, very difficult to work with. Well, they had the scientific knowledge, but not the practical knowledge. So they started out with all different types of beings, including such as this illustration of Littlefoot and Lucy. And they would even have beings where they were testing out the kind of hands or the kind of feet that would work. Eventually, they went through over 60 different types of beings, and along came the Neanderthals, mostly existed in Europe. 3.5 million was the maximum number of Neanderthals because they were also cannibalistic and they also required a lot of food. And so uh, the ETs quietly fixed it so they just couldn't have any more children. They were clever. They had 70% of our brain power. But again, because they were cannibalistic, their numbers could never grow very much. And then along came the Cro-Magnons. Now, the Cro-Magnons had 100% of our um, brain capacity, but they had different things on things on their insides, which no one's ever found a frozen Cro-Magnon, so they just think it was an early human. Well, they were kind of early, but they were different. And as you can see, um, here's a reconstruction of a Cro-Magnon head, and they had very heavy eyebrows that were not good for being in a fight because if they were broken, it was like a death sentence. And here is an artist's depiction of the Cro-Magnons. In actuality, they probably uh, were building their own huts and lodging and all, but uh, this this was a good illustration, I thought, with these heavy eyebrows they had. Then finally, 60,000 years ago, the Adam and Eve model human was introduced after the ETs thought they finally got it right. And so this is as I say, the Adam and Eve model, the Homo sapien, and they, because the ETs could create these bodies in 2.5 minutes in tubes, they would deposit groups of these on all the different continents with slightly different makeups because the creator wanted us to learn how to get along together, no matter what our religion or the color of our skin or anything. So that was all part of creator's plan. Now, the continent of Atlantis uh, was in the shape of a parallelogram, and I'll give you the exact coordinates of it, but it's in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean within 30 miles of the African continent that was at that time known as the uh, the land of Oz, and within 100 miles of the North American coast, and with a tail extending all the way down to the Bahamas. The northern edge was not quite as high as shown here. The artist just couldn't quite get it. And so um, they, the Atlanteans conquered most of all the Mediterranean, with the exception of that coastline to the west. And uh, I was told I had two lives as a soldier, and in both those lives, we were told to go and conquer uh, the land of Oz, it was called, and we were all massacred. So before I get to that, uh, here's the northern latitudes, 47 degrees, southern 30, southern tip 26, 18, western edge 75, 80. Keep in mind these longitudes are vertical lines and the latitudes are horizontal lines. And where they meet together, it forms the box. In this case, a parallelogram. So that's how they were put together. I included it in the book but my publisher couldn't understand it, so they left it out. Edgar Casey had many readings about Atlantis. Now, the first destruction was the shifting of the poles at 52,000 years ago. And uh, that's when Greenland turned from a place that was green and had beautiful rivers and all to snowbound. And then the Atlanteans were given free energy in uh, from the ETs using crystals. And so these crystals were called posers, and they would be like 20 or 25 feet, and they would be set up and be magnetically generated to generate an energy that powered all of their cars and trucks and homes and businesses. Because keep in mind, uh, the Atlantean the Atlanteans survived for 40 or 50,000 years. So they had a they were still, even their medical advances are still beyond ours, but we're slowly catching up. But they powered their planes and buses and autos and all with this energy. The ETs saw that they were turning this free energy into weapons of war, these laser weapons, and such as we tried to use on the Africans or the Land of Oz people, and they pulled out. Um, these posers had an Achilles heel. Um, None of the airplanes and all could fly at night, and they only could fly in the daytime. So that's how the warriors would wipe us out. They would just wait for darkness and come in thousands. And so I lost my life twice, two different lives as a soldier trying to conquer uh, the land of Oz. Now, Atlantis was was bisected by a string of volcanoes, and they all blew up one day. And so 30,000 years ago, Atlantis breaks apart, and the seas rose 160 feet all over the world, wiping out every city and town and village that was on the beaches or close anywhere close to the oceans. So that there were a few islands like the in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean was Poseidia, the size of Cuba, but rounded shape. Arran, 375 miles to the south, the size of Hispaniola, a little bit larger. And there were five little islands below that. The Poseidons followed the law of one, and the people on Arran and those five smaller islands were the sons of Belial. That were their religious beliefs at that time. And so Poseidia had this beautiful Golden Gate city. This is just one of the many depictions. They all had waterways with very limited ways to get from one circle land to the next, so easily defended. I I was a religious leader. Now the gentle way I found out I uh, created back about 12,700 years ago. I had 1 million people following me at that time, and I was told that Poseidia and Aryan were going to be destroyed, and so I, with 25,000 of my followers, went to Egypt and resettled there. third destruction took place 12,500 years ago, Pearl Harbor type attack. The seas rose 41 to 45 feet, and uh, 350 or so of their planes came with these laser weapons that could melt the land right underneath your feet, and it destroyed it. And that's when the uh, the seas rose more, but not as much. And that's also when Noah and his ark actually took place about 12,500 years ago, but only with domestic animals, strictly because they changed the story because they said, well, the whole world was underwater. Well, only the uh, part with uh, that was 40 to 45 feet in the Mediterranean and all. And so they added in wild animals to the stories as the thousands of years passed by. Next, we'll be taking up Lemuria. And so please uh, sign up for my free newsletter. That's at www.thegentlewaybook.com. On the first page, you can also go to articles and news where you can read my back newsletters. And please hit the subscribe button and the like button. Thank you.